Hey everyone, welcome back to another Red Dead Online video. Now in today's video, I'm actually going to go over some of the better ability cards that you might want to consider when you guys are going into the Call to Arms survival mode to help you guys basically just last as long as you possibly can and hopefully beat it so that you guys can actually earn a lot of additional money and a decent amount of gold and XP for participating in the brand new Call to Arms update. So anyway, let's go and take a look at the abilities straight away so you guys can kind of go ahead and see, first of all, what I was using and what I have only used up to this point when I have done the Call to Arms, and that is Painted Black, Unblinking Eye, Eye for an Eye, and then Cold Blooded. Now, I'm a huge fan of Painted Black. You don't necessarily need to use it if you don't want to. However, when it comes to these four cards, the one that I would definitely go ahead and probably consider getting rid of is Cold Blooded. This one is, of the ones that I primarily use, this is the one that I would actually replace with a different one. So let's go ahead and take a look at which Deadeye cards I would actually suggest using. And honestly, if you guys would suggest something different, by all means, go ahead and leave a comment down below, because I'm always curious to see what loados you guys are using and if there's anything that you guys would prefer compared to what I would actually recommend. So Painted Black, obviously, while in Deadeye is active, it paints the target on an enemy. Fire your weapons to shoot all the marked targets. Each shot drains a very small portion of Deadeye, and then you cannot mark or be marked while in defensive playing style, which you're not going to be anyway in defensive playing style because you're doing that offensive mode. Slow and Steady is one that I would highly recommend if you're definitely not going to be using Painted Black. So while in Deadeye is active, you take much less damage, and headshots do not kill you outright. Taking damage will drain your Deadeye, and you cannot run or sprint while it's activated. Now, the only problem that I actually see with the Slow and Steady is if you actually take a considerable amount of damage, say from one of the wagons that comes in that has one of the maximum guns on it, and you start taking a significant amount of damage, it will quickly drain your Deadeye, and that means that you won't have any to start activating it right away. So that could be the only downfall that I see with the Slow to Steady, but this is the second one that I would highly recommend. Now, the other one, if you guys really like Slippery Bastard and are really good at free aim, this one might be one that you might want to consider, because you might not take a lot of damage at all if you're currently in it. It's kind of like a god mode, so to speak, if you guys want to label it as that. So you guys could do a lot more damage and get really close to your targets, especially if you're using a shotgun. This might be a direction to go. I don't think I would personally use it. I'm not very good with Slippery Bastard, but I know that a lot of people out there are really good with it. So while in Deadeye is active, enemies are significantly less accurate when shooting at you, and your accuracy is significantly reduced. The rate at which your Deadeye drains is increased. So there is always that. But let's go ahead and move on to the other ones, because we can take a look at the other four all at the exact same time. Unblinking Eye, your Deadeye, and Eagle Eye drain much slower. So if you want to be able to always activate your Deadeye or your Eagle Eye, obviously you're not going to be using Eagle Eye at all in the Call to Arms mode, but having it drain slower can definitely help you guys out. Now, another one that I would actually recommend in this one is actually Hunker Down. So you take a lot less damage while in cover. So if you guys are one of those types of players that likes to be inside of cover, especially in the Call to Arms mode, if you are playing solo, you might be in cover a lot more than you typically are. So taking a lot less damage because you're in cover might actually help you survive a lot longer. Strength in numbers, definitely wouldn't recommend that one. Friends for Life, you're not really going to be using a horse and riding around on a horse really that much, but Fool Me Once is definitely one you could use quite a bit. You take a lot less damage while each consecutive time you are shot. This affects ends if you're not shot for 10 seconds. So if you're taking a lot of damage, and especially at the later rounds of the Call to Arms, this one might help you guys just take a little bit less damage, but it's not always going to be needed. Now, if you guys are always wearing a hat, never without one might be one that you guys would like to potentially use. So your hat will always block one headshot, so dealing with the snipers in the later rounds might help out. But this is really only if you're using a hat, and obviously I wouldn't combine it with the other Deadeye one, the Slow and Steady, just because headshots don't outright kill you anyway. Having these two together, to me, doesn't really make sense. I mean, you can do whatever you want. It's your character, it's your play style. I just wouldn't put this one with slow and steady. So if you're using it with anything else, potentially. All right, let's move on to the next one. Using Gunslinger, so dual wielding range weapons will actually deal much more damage and it's much more accurate. I use a lot of dual wielding weapons when I'm actually focusing on the call to arms. So this one might be really beneficial for a lot of players out there just because you can actually do more damage and your accuracy is a lot better. So as your Deadeye actually is drained and you start losing a little bit of that accuracy because your cores have been depleted and you don't have maybe enough time to eat something or even take a tonic for whatever reason, then this might really help you out and kind of counteract some of those abilities, especially if you're dual wielding quite a bit. Horseman, obviously you're not really doing anything with this one because you're not going to be on horseback. Sharpshooter, if you guys are using the Carcano rifle or any other rifle that has a scope and you've added a scope to it, might help you out a little bit, but you have to consistently be using a scope, which means that you can't really be using painted black while in that mode in a scope. That's not really going to work out for you, but you deal much more damage and you also take a lot less damage. So if you don't always get a headshot and you want to deal more damage, there you go. Now, if you are a gun or a shotgun type of person and always like using your shotgun within the call to arms mode, the shorter game might be okay for you guys just because you'll deal more damage when targets are closer to you, but the further they are away, the less damage you're actually going to do with them. So I would only use this if you guys are only pretty much using shotgun, which I have used shotgun quite a bit, especially when I have done the call to arms solo. There is always that those times that you just get really close or let enemies get really close to you and then start taking them out one by one. So it really just depends on the situation that you're being presented with, if this is something that might be worthwhile to you. Now, if you're one of those players that actually is consistently getting shot or taking a lot of damage in call to arms, then Comeback Stronger might be beneficial for you. So your health regenerates faster and your health begins to regenerate much sooner after you take damage. So that way, hopefully, you're not always dying right away. Now, the last time that I actually played this with a group of players, there was one player that was a lot lower than all the other ones. And every wave, they were dying. So having Comeback Stronger might be something that they would want to put on it, but I don't feel like Comeback Stronger was going to be for everybody. Now, just because you are dealing with a lot of players in Call to Arms, kicking the butt might be worth it. So whenever you take damage, which is actually going to happen quite a bit, especially in the later waves of Call to Arms, then a large portion will be added to your Deadeye. So having in combination of you taking damage and always using a Deadeye, as long as you're always using the Deadeye, whatever one you're using, this is really nice to have because you're always going to be taking damage regardless. So having a portion added, a large portion of it added to your Deadeye, can definitely help you out. Again, right now I am currently using Cold-Blooded, so after killing an enemy, I will regain health, a lot of health, over the next 3 seconds. If you're not taking a lot of damage and you don't know always having to worry about your health, and this is one that I probably will replace in the next time that I participate in Call to Arms, just to see if there's a better option out there. And Strange Medicine actually might be that one, so you regain a lot of health whenever you inflict damage. You're constantly going to be inflicting damage all the time, so this is a good one to really have. So if you're taking a lot of damage and then you're getting a lot of it with like kicking the butt and adding it to your Deadeye, having this one that actually regenerates your health every time that you every time you inflict damage, which you're going to be doing all the time anyway, then having a lot of it added to your health would really help you out. Otherwise, Eye to Eye is really good just because anytime that you get a headshot, it's going to be going to Deadeye, but the only downfall to this one is that it always has to be a headshot. So if you're really good at headshots and you're really good at using Painted Black or even Slow and Steady, then this one might be really good for you guys as long as you're always consistently getting those headshots. If you're not good at getting headshots, then I definitely would not suggest using Eye for an Eye. But that is everything. Hopefully it really does help you guys out. If you guys have any questions or something different that you would change, by all means go ahead and leave a comment down below, because I'd actually love to hear what you guys think about either this video or the things that I've suggested or even didn't suggest within the video. But until next time, YouTube, you guys keep doing what you're doing because you're already doing it, and you guys stay gaming.